Let's look at chapter 2 is a really interesting, so many times in the Bible, and I'm the son of a football coach, so I like things to be pretty straightforward, and I'm not going to thrill you with my doctorates or anything like that. But, I think another thing that I love from C.S. Lewis when he said, it's not the things of the Bible I don't understand that convict me, it's the things I do understand. Sometimes we hide like the Bible's complicated. Well, it's complicated for the lost. And we act like that the Bible doesn't address things, like these big mysteries. And I got news to you. When I was talking to this dad last Tuesday night, a week ago tonight, and he expected me not to have the answers. He would say, what about this? I'd go, right here. What about that? Right here. What about this? It's right here. He says, how do you know these things? I said, it's a bizarre concept. I study the Word of God. I said, I take the time to be in a Bible study, to be taught the Bible. I said, I pursue it because and I didn't before. When I was lost, you couldn't get me to look in the Bible. Because in my mind, I thought, I don't like to read. The only book I've ever read is Where the Red Fern Grows in 8th grade. I haven't even read those books y'all brought that I supposedly wrote. So the Bible was not interesting to me. It was something that I begrudgingly did as part of my culture. I'd go to you always tell people like me, when my mom would make me go to church, I'd open my Bible and you could hear it open because it's so stiff. You know what I mean? And so I was thinking about this thing that God taught me through the earthly death of my son. I kept thinking, what's all this with, what's the difference between obedience and legalism? That's the thing that has so many people confused. The reason why so many people have any impact with their lives after Christ, they don't understand the difference, and I didn't either, between legalism and obedience. Legalism is I'm trying to begrudgingly keep a bunch of rules. There's so many I'm overwhelmed by, and I'm trying to be good enough so maybe God will think I'm okay, but I can't seem to get it done. Well, see, that's what he came to defeat. He said, if you miss an ounce of the law, you're done. That's why God better have grace and mercy on you. He said, now, if you love me, obey my commands. I said, that's completely different. I don't do certain things because I'm trying to impress a pastor or a priest or whatever you call the man of God that's in charge of you in your flock. I don't do that. I no longer do things because I think, well, I better do it. I guess that looks I better do it. I have gotten to the point, it's the only way you ever have victory. It's the only way you'll ever have victory. I stay away from the things that are not of Him, that I used to love, and I pursue the things of Him, not because I think that's going to get me into heaven, or it's going to save me. I do it because I love Him because He saved me. It's a response of love. That's obedience. I do the things I do because I love Him. And that's the only thing you'll have victory on. You're never going to sit there and say, I'm not going to watch porn anymore. You better love Him enough not to watch it anymore. I'm not in a solid marriage because I'm a great husband or because I love my wife enough. I'm not. I treat her the way I treat her because I love Him enough. That's why marriage fails. You know why marriage fails? I was talking to a guy who claimed to be a Christian. Okay? We're in Nashville. He comes in my hotel room. We were doing some event there. He says, my wife and I are going to divorce. I said, oh my goodness, I thought you were a follower of Christ. He said, what are you talking about? Of course I am. I said, well, I didn't know your wife had stopped believing and rejected the gospel. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, Paul says if you're married to a non-believer, unequally yoked, and they leave, let them go. I said, so she must be leaving you, and she's not a believer. He said, Rick, you know my wife's a believer. I said, oh, well, you've been unfaithful to each other. You've been unfaithful. Jesus does talk about unfaithfulness, even though that's not unforgivable, and that's not a free ticket to get out of marriage. If God calls you to reconcile, you do. Many people have. I said, but I understand if that's in play here. He said, no, it's not in play. We've been faithful to each other. I said, let me get this straight. You're both believers. You both have been faithful to each other in the intimacy of your marriage. Why in the world are you getting a divorce? He said, we just don't love each other anymore. I said, what are you, in junior high? What do you mean you don't love each other anymore? I said, I can't tell you the number of days. My wife looks at me and says, Rick Burgess, I love you today because I told Christ I would. I'm not lovable. What's lovable about me? On a 24/7 basis? Are you out of your mind? I mean, I've got my moments. But for the most part, I'm not lovable. You better love your spouse because you told Christ you would. That better be what it's about. And I said, brother, you will not divorce your wife because you don't love each other enough. You'll divorce her because you don't love Christ enough. Because if you loved Him, you'd obey His commands. You are defiantly going against what He said. And that's nothing but a lack of love for Christ. And you also have zero faith that He can rectify this spiritual desert you're in your marriage. I am proud to say that they divorced and they remarried this past year. And they're both solid followers of Christ. They went on and did what they weren't supposed to do and quickly found out that they were convicted in their spirit that they were wrong. And they're back together now because they love Christ enough, not because they love each other enough.